that you'll find it very interesting, and that is personal health habits around the issue of diabetes, and actually pre-diabetes, and just personal habits around your own health as you move forward in life. And all I can do is say now, good morning, Barbara King.
Good morning, Rock. How are you this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. I wish I had the same background that you have. Unfortunately, I have this green screen, but today you'll have to unfortunately deal with that green screen.
That's all right. That's all right. They got my sunny screen in the back, so that's okay.
Well, that's a good thing. And so let's talk a moment about the whole issue of diabetes. You're one of the founding members of the board of directors of the African American Diabetes Association, and you've been doing this work for some time.
Absolutely.
But we're finding out that African Americans are at the highest risk of pre-diabetes than essentially non-Hispanic whites, and especially the issue of type 2 diabetes, which runs pretty high in the African American community. And let us not forget type 1 diabetes. What should people be doing to address our personal health in relationship to diabetes in our community, in Roxbury, in other parts of Boston? What should folks be doing?
Well, we know that, there's different things that we should be doing, but I think more we should talk first about the pre-diabetes, of what they should be doing with regarding to pre-diabetes to prevent getting diabetes in the first place. But pre-diabetes, it's a serious condition that leads to type 2 diabetes. So we need to just talk about ways that we could prevent from getting type 2 diabetes, and working on, ways of eating and different ways of reversing, because pre-diabetes can be reversed. So I think, us talking about the health factors and ways that we could, work around the pre-diabetes and diabetes in general.
Yes, and I agree, because diabetes can impact our heart. Actually, a lot of people think that you die of diabetes. The fact is that you don't die of diabetes. You die of complications from diabetes. It's the complications, it's the heart disease, it's the stroke, it's the blindness, it's the kidney failure, it's the loss of toes and feet and legs. That right there talks pretty clear about the African American community, because essentially when you hear what happens in the African American community, it goes down that line of heart disease, and then stroke, and then blindness, and then kidney failure, the loss of limbs, legs and feet, and so forth. When we hear about people, and particularly as we get older in age, and even some in middle age, we hear about people dying early or even dying later in age, and it's always pretty much a complication related to diabetes.
And it does not have to happen. No one should be losing their lives over the complications of diabetes. No one. And it can be prevented. Type 1 is a different story, but you can also live happily with type 1, by doing some of the correct things, but no one should be dying from diabetes, the complications of diabetes.
Yeah, we agree. And actually, let's talk, and actually let us both talk about our own personal experiences with diabetes, because there is a reason why we are essentially addressing this issue in the African American community, because of our own personal history. Let's talk about, if you don't mind, women first.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what is your own personal experiences in addressing and dealing with diabetes?
I'll start off by saying, for those that don't know, I am a type 1 diabetic, and I do live with an insulin pump and a continuous glucose monitoring device that helps me to monitor my sugars. And it has been a challenge for me because I don't have a pancreas. So it's really a challenge. But I tell you, it's more of a challenge with me with the foods that I eat. And I shared with Rock, I can laugh about it now. When I first got my doctor, when I started dealing with the diabetes, he always used this thing. He said, Barbara, eat what you want. Eat what you want. You don't have a pancreas. You need to eat what you want. And that's exactly what I did. And I ate like that because that's what the doctors told me, because of
Wow.
them not knowing how to deal with a person not having a pancreas. And so what they telling me that, boy, because I was experiencing a lot of low sugars. So them gummy worms, they became
Right.
my best friend.
Wow.
So, those trolley gummy worms. And
Mhm.
so, because of me with my low blood sugars, I just ate the gummy worms just constantly because I was so afraid of a low blood sugar. But
Mm.
they were no good for me. I could have found other things, and I didn't really know much about diabetes. So that, and I contribute that to me being an African American and me not just getting the proper information that I needed. So for years I had the incorrect information, and but when I started changing, I said to Rock, my hemoglobin went from 12.9 to 8.1, just leaving those gummy worms alone.
Right.
And
Right.
so I had to ask, was it the gummy worms that was causing my blood sugars to stay high and me not to be able to control it? Absolutely. So what we put into our bodies affects our sugars. And so being a type 1 diabetic, it's hard to control. It sometimes it's very difficult when you get sick. You're not feeling well, your blood sugars get affected. But we just have to learn ways, different ways of eating and different ways of controlling. When we do feel like we want to eat, I tell you, I have to be honest, Rock. I pretty much eat what I want,
Hmm.
but I do it in moderation. And I know what not to put into my body because it's going to cause my sugars to go high. And if I do want to eat that, I got to know how to monitor my sugars by giving myself the amount of insulin that I'm going to need to prevent from going into a high sugar. So I think that just, learning ways of that you can control your sugar if you're a type 1 diabetes. And it's the same with type 2. But with type 2, I think you really gotta just be careful with what you eat. And we just gotta, you're a type 2 diabetic, if you don't mind talking about that, to say, how do you control your sugars, and how do you, what do you put into your mouth? Because sometimes we're a little confused of, should I eat this? Shouldn't I eat this? We get so much data, so much information that, and it makes you confused. You don't know what plan to follow. Should you follow a fasting plan? Should you follow this? We don't know. So it gets confusing for diabetics.
Well, you've asked a good point, and that is, hey, yes, I am a type 2 diabetic. I learned that I was a type 2 diabetic in 2000, if I'm not mistaken, 5. I got the date down finally, 2005. And since 2005, it has been a challenge, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I crashed when I learned that I had diabetes. When I say I crashed, most people do. And that is, they learn real quick that they have diabetes, and it becomes a crash diet of sorts, where you begin to not eat foods at all because you
Yep.
think, hey, guess what? I'm scared of dying. I
Yep.
don't know what's going on with diabetes. This is something new to me. And the doctor says, hey, guess what? You're a diabetic and you got to stop eating these sugars. And I'm like, wow, well, I guess I got to stop eating sugar. And then I crash. I crash because of the sugars. If my sugar becomes low, which
Yep.
it does, and unfortunately pretty often, and it goes below, and if you're tracking your sugar levels, and by the way, back in the day, I used to use a little thing that I used to pinch my finger with.
And you shouldn't be doing that, but go
Right,
ahead.
we shouldn't be doing that, particularly these days and times with these electronic monitors, which we're going to talk about. But the
Absolutely.
bottom line is that I was just, I was crashing. I was scared. And the doctor didn't give me anything, new knowledge regarding diabetes. He actually told me that I'm going to be a diabetic for the rest of my life, which was scary that a doctor was saying that you're always going to be a diabetic, period. And it's like, well, wait a minute. So I'm going to have to take insulin for the rest of my life? Oh, yeah, you're going to have to take insulin for the rest of your life. And he gave me the bottle, said, hey, guess what? I'm going to show you how to do this stuff and begin to take that insulin. And it's like, wow, it was stressful. And then I went, and you know the story, but I went to another organization to find out what was up with diabetes in Black men in particular. No information, a dearth of information on diabetes and Black men in particular, but the Black community, period. And now what do I do to eat? I eat cautiously. I do. I eat cautiously, like carbohydrates, like the breads that, you come up and grow up in Boston. You eat a lot of bread.
Sure
It's just
do.
part of life. And, I got to stop eating as much breads. And all those carbs that I used to eat, I love sushi. I can't eat sushi like I used to. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I love to eat. You think of pancakes, and you remember back in the day, you would pile them up with pancakes. What?
And the butter.
And lots of syrup and lots of sugar.
Yes.
Can't do that anymore. So it's a challenge, I will tell you. But at the same time, I don't limit myself in the way I live. You can't stop living because you have diabetes. You essentially, in terms of the food you eat, I have found that you have to do everything in moderation.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Totally agree. And I think that, like you're saying, I mean, I believe that even with type 1 and type 2, you still have to treat it the same. You still have to eat properly. Yes, type 1, you'll never, you're going to have it for the rest of your life, but you could still live your life. You could still live your life, but you just got to live it carefully. You have to be careful with what you put in your body. And unfortunately, it took me so many years to realize that my body is being damaged by what I'm putting into it. They didn't tell me that I was going to have nerve damage in my legs. They didn't tell me I was going to have nerve damage in my fingers. I never knew about that. But now I know about it. But if I would have known that things that I was doing could have prevented it. A lot of my illness could have been prevented if I would have just been given the information. And of course, I wasn't given the information, but I found out from other Caucasian people that have diabetes, what their doctors was telling them and what they were doing. And that's how I learned. And that's when I went in and started asking questions about my diabetes and me switching doctors. So yes, what we put into our bodies does make a big difference, and how we eat makes a big difference. But don't wait until you start getting older and you start realizing you got all this nerve damage and everything when it could have been changed by what we put into our bodies.
That's right. Actually, you raise a good point. What do we put into our bodies? I love to, personally for myself, I love vegetables, I love fruits, and I love whole grains. And those are the three components and critical components of how we should eat healthy, not just because we're diabetic, but because we want to be healthy beings. Vegetables, fruits, whole grains, essentially choosing non-fat dairy and lean meats if you eat meats. Personally, for myself, I only eat chicken and fish. And by the way, I'm trying to limit that. Meats, not so much. I eat meat maybe on a special occasion. And I'm actually, the meat kind of makes me, it grinds you. It's working and processing. And it usually takes 2 or 3 days for meat to get through your body. So
Rock, I love my chicken. I'm sorry.
She says, I love my chicken.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm sorry.
And then the whole issue of high sugars and fats. How have you addressed that? Now, can you go? I want you to talk about how you have addressed sugars and fats and your strategies. But can you go back just for a second, because you talked about not having a pancreas. For those people that don't understand what the pancreas does and the role of the pancreas, because you become a subject matter expert on pancreas for sure. What does a pancreas do?
Your pancreas produces the insulin that's needed to keep your brain functioning. Your brain has to have sugar. I never realized that. And so your pancreas is producing all of the insulin. And so what happened is I had these tumor cells on my pancreas that was all over the pancreas. And so the tumor cells were attaching to the isolate cells or something. If I read it, I probably would be able to say, but I do know that the tumor cells was affecting the insulin that was being produced. And so because it was all over it, it wasn't allowing it to produce any insulin. So they ended up having to remove the whole pancreas. And so I was one of the first, according to them, the first people that they did this at the Brigham. To remove the pancreas. So they've never done this before. And I was one of the first. And so because of that, they really didn't have a lot of data on it. And so, they didn't give me any tools to work with. So I really didn't even know, I have to be honest, that I was going to be a diabetic.
Right.
I never even knew I was going to be a diabetic. And sometimes I say, do I weigh it? I'm alive, but look at what I got to go through, and what I went through. But, not having the pancreas it's a lot. And so a person that has type 1 diabetes, they pretty much is going through the same thing. It's exactly pretty much the same, but mine's just had these isolate tumor cells all over it. And so they needed to remove it. And, I was shocked because a lot of people die from pancreatic cancer. They die instantly by the time they find out. But they was able to remove mine and save my life. And I'm still alive. And that was done in 2004. That was, having the pancreas removed is very challenging. And it doesn't only cause the diabetes, it causes other medical problems.
That's right.
And so,
And thank you for the clarification. We do have a comment. Pastor Bruce Wall is saying that Servalin Muhammad asked on Facebook, do you guys offer help offline? And so I can answer that question really quick, and I'm sure Barbara can too. It's an unequivocal yes. Unequivocal yes. You can go online on AfricanAmericanDiabetes.org, again, AfricanAmericanDiabetes.org, and go to the section that allows for comments and questions, and just fill out that information, and a team member from the African American Diabetes Association will directly contact you. So just fill out that information, and we'll be able to contact you directly. So we do provide a number of services at the AADA, and we're gearing up. We're only 1 year into this. We're into this for the past 1 year. And it's been an amazing year, by the way.
Absolutely.
Since we announced the formation, but we have been doing the work for a number of years. We became an official organization just a year ago, as we announced the formation of the organization. So thank you, Servalin Muhammad, for that question. That was an important question as well. Do we provide help offline? And all
Absolutely.
I can do is say unequivocally yes.
Yes.
And so, Barbara, well, you can see the green screen is gone.
I
Now
was
it's
going to
blue
say
screen.
that.
The magic of television and broadcasting and radio
Exactly.
broadcasting. I'll tell you, things
Technology.
change in just a moment.
I know.
So,
Yes.
Barbara, we're talking about the whole issue of how do we maintain, as people in the African American community that have diabetes or have pre-diabetes, what are the habits that we need to change, or habits that we currently have? You have a number of habits, and one of them is the addressing the issue of sugar. You just talked about it, and this was interesting. You talked about we need sugar for the brain.
Yes, we got to live. We need sugar.
To live.
We have to live.
So if you're diabetic, don't think that you don't need sugar. You need it. Actually, you need sugar.
You need it. and me and you have experienced what low sugars will do to you when your brain don't have the sugar.
That's right.
So we know.
We do know, that's for sure. I can actually tell you that I had a low sugar incident. Actually, when I was running around in Boston last week, last week for the Mel King Memorial, and being forgetful as I can be sometimes in relationship to taking care of myself, about eating food. Diabetics start saying, hey, guess what? I don't need it anymore. I don't need that high level of food anymore. I'm not going to put all that intake into my body. And a lot of diabetics lose weight. I'm losing weight as we speak because I've just been doing things differently. Here's the deal. My blood sugar level was at 70. Last week at 70 because I didn't eat breakfast or lunch. Not good.
Not good.
And at 70 and at 80 and anything of that level, you get confused. Your brain doesn't function the way, it's like if the average person without diabetes doesn't eat almost all day until the evening, you're kind of like way off balanced is bad. It's because of sugar. When people say food, I need some food, for their brain, it's saying I need sugar.
That's right. That's right. And what's so, when your brain starts needing that sugar and you don't have it, you will find yourself on the ground. You will be on the ground. I have been in a coma twice due to low blood sugars. I've been in a coma twice. And thank God I'm still alive. And that's from just having a low blood sugar. I've passed out plenty of times, and it almost gets in feelings of embarrassment, but that's just something we got to live with. But I can help myself by doing certain things to prevent a low blood sugar. So if there's certain things, we do.
What do you do?
What I do is I'll drink, instead of me getting me some gummy worms, I'll get me a little bit of, the doctor, one of my new doctors, diabetes doctors, they said, you don't need to drink a whole glass of orange juice to get your sugar up. Mm-hmm. Just do 4 ounces. Shoot, I was getting the biggest one of those red cups, orange juice.
Right.
So I started just drinking enough just to get my sugar up. And I tell you, that 4 ounces brought it up to maybe 200 or 300. I'm like, brought it up too high.
Wow.
And so that's because of not having a pancreas, that it causes it to go up very quickly. But, I try to, instead of just going for the junk food, apple. But, when your sugar's low, an apple takes too long to get in my body, to process it. But, just trying to grab something that is gonna be not, it doesn't have to be chocolate candies and all that stuff.
Right.
It
can be healthy.
It could be
healthy sugars.
Healthy sugars. But if that's all you're around and you're having a low blood sugar, eat the candy.
That's right.
Don't play games with it. Eat the candy.
That's right.
I think, do we have a question, Rob? No.
Yeah, Pastor Hobbs was saying in the, I believe it's Pastor Hobbs in the chat room, saying, I hope you will continue to broadcast and keep this information going. You will need to create a YouTube page so we can broadcast on it along with your YouTube pages. And I love that. Thank you, Pastor.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pastor.
And that's exactly, we have a team of folks that are building our YouTube page as we speak. It's important, and we are upgrading our social media strategy and platform moving forward. We didn't have one over the past year. Shame on us. But we are essentially, the African American Diabetes Association is gearing up our social media strategy and campaign. And by the way, I'm going to give a shout out to folks that are online or are listening now or listening to the rebroadcast to say, join us. Yes, join us in the African American Diabetes Association. We have a Facebook page and a Instagram page, and all you have to do is look it up on African American Diabetes Association. That's it. Just look it up under African American Diabetes Association for either one of those pages, and like us, please, and share our post on diabetes. Share them, get it out into community, because it is important. It's very important, Pastor. I appreciate that comment about us continuing to broadcast and keeping information flowing in the African American community regarding diabetes.
And it's so important to have platforms like this, because for the African American community, because where else are we going to be able to get truthful information regarding us? Ralph, one thing I felt a need to say regarding the eating habits or eating and diabetes is families. We come from families, African Americans in general, come from families of home that down south cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes you know where I'm going.
That's right.
And so, for years, I cooked like my mother cooked. And
Mm-hmm.
when I made mac and cheese, I made mac and cheese. It was so much cheese going in it. It
Mm-hmm.
was so much of whatever I seen my mother put in it, I did. She
That's
didn't
right.
measure. She didn't
Mm-hmm.
measure.
Right.
So how do you count carbs if you ain't measuring
That's right.
and you don't know?
Mm-hmm.
So, but she never did. And that's the way a lot of us still cook today. We still cook today. We still cook those big old meals and, you know, sometimes going to Thanksgiving, no disrespect to anybody. You go to a Thanksgiving dinner, you don't really see a lot of vegetable stuff on the table. You really don't. You don't see a lot of healthiness on the table. And that just comes from what we were taught. We were taught to eat that way. That's the way we eat. But we also got to make changes in our lives. Just
Yes.
because it's certain things we was taught, certain things we went through, but we can't let that continue. Um, that's an easy way for them to wipe us off the face of the earth and don't do nothing about it, is to continue to allow us to have diabetes and don't give us the proper care or the proper knowledge and the understanding of it. And so you keep eating the way we eat, and I say we because I've done it also. That wipes us off of this earth quicker, much
Well,
quicker.
you're saying in many ways that when the health community is not addressing diabetes the way it should, when I say the health community, I'm talking about
Yes,
physicians and
yes.
healthcare providers, the big corporations are charging you ridiculous sums of dollars for
Mm-hmm.
diabetes medicine, sometimes $1,200 to $2,000 per month to stay alive.
Yeah,
It's
just stay
unfair.
alive.
It's not right. And
Mm-hmm.
we got to do something about it. I'm glad that the African American Diabetes Association is here to raise the
The
alarm,
alarm.
to
That's
ring
right.
the alarm on diabetes in the African American community. You mentioned something that is critical as well, and that is you talked about Southern cooking.
And I
Southern
love
cooking.
it.
We're all from the South. We're
And
all
I
from the
love it.
South. We're all from the South. Now, it doesn't make a difference if you're from the South of the US or the
Mm-hmm.
South of the Caribbean or the South of other parts of the world. You're still from the South
You still
in
from the
many
South.
ways. And your eating habits, we are the same in our eating habits in many
Yes,
ways. It
yes.
doesn't make a difference what part of the country or
No.
what part of the world we come from. Our eating habits tend to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned the South, and the South is essentially the diabetes belt,
Yes,
correct?
yes, absolutely.
It's the diabetes belt. When you look
Absolutely.
at the numbers, the sheer numbers, Alabama
Mm.
has the highest incidence. Between Alabama and running second is South Carolina, two of the highest incidents of diabetes in
Diabetes.
the African American community by region, by
And what
state,
is being done about it? Absolutely nothing.
pretty
I mean,
much.
they're probably doing a little bit, but it ain't in the African American communities.
We agree, and that's why we created the African American Diabetes Association to
Absolutely.
address this straight on. And by the way, it's not necessarily a happy conversation. It's really not.
It's not.
If you think about it,
Absolutely.
diabetes is taking us out, and we talked about it earlier, amputations.
Mm,
Black folks are getting amputated
amputated.
left and right. And that's not a figure of speech, that's the reality. The left
Absolutely.
foot and the right foot amputated. I
Yep.
got one of my daughter shared with me a photograph of one of her friends, and one of her friends who is in their 40s or 50s just got his leg amputated.
And that's
How?
horrible.
Because of diabetes. He wasn't controlling what he needed to do. And so that's what happens.
Yeah,
You get your leg, and hey, guess what? Hands get amputated as well.
absolutely.
Fingers get amputated as well because of the lack of control. We got to
Eyes,
change our habits.
people go blind.
People go blind because of diabetes.
Diabetes.
Yeah, so I have a lot of friends, and you have a lot of friends. And as we walk the walk of the challenge of diabetes and educating our people, we're learning that so many folks that we know of have diabetes.
Absolutely.
As we walk through the streets, as we have these conversations, diabetes is killing us, and we got to change our habits. One of the
Yes.
habits that I have always been interested in, and I know you are too, is I used to run as a youngster, and
Ooh,
now I walk as a older gentleman. Isn't that a good strategy? That getting
absolutely.
exercise.
I tell you, rock, not only is it a good exercise for diabetes, it's a good exercise for stress. And so if you have diabetes and you walk,
Mhm.
you are not only helping your diabetes, you are helping your mental health. Diabetes, whether it's pre-diabetes, type 1, type 2, you still get depressed over it. You get depressed. And so walking will not only help with that. You don't got to run. Nobody said go out there and run, but walking, walk,
Mhm.
walk, walk.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't care. You cannot do enough of walking, even just for your mental health. We got to get control of this diabetes. And the first step of getting control is to get out there. The weather's getting nice. The weather's getting nice. So let's get out there and walk. Do a little bit of walking. If you're not used to walking, just go out there and just walk a little bit. A little bit is better than none. And so, if you got diabetes, I challenge you, go out there and just walk. Just do a little bit of walking. Take a couple of steps outside, breathe. And let's work. Let the African American diabetes help you to get healthy with your diabetes.
There you go. Wow. You just kind of gave a peek on the May challenge that we're going to be doing. You gave a
Just
little
a
bit of a
little
peek,
up. I told it up.
just a tad bit of a peek on our
Yes.
May challenge. She said, we challenge you. And we're going to announce that in May, by the way. And that is that we're going to challenge the African American community of Boston to get out and walk.
Yes. Yes.
Get out
Yes.
and walk. It's going to be a walk challenge. Oh, by the way, and there's going to be incentives for that walk
Yes.
challenge. We're going to talk about that next month.
Yes.
Next month, we're going to talk about that for the May challenge. Yeah, Barbara, you peaked it. You peaked it for folks. I'm
See,
excited about it, by the
yeah, I'm
way.
excited too.
I'm totally
Um,
excited. So folks should walk. What else would you recommend for exercise?
I would say, you can do exercise sitting in a chair in your house. You can, because sometimes we got to remember the elderly. And
Right.
so they sit and have diabetes and they
Mm-hmm.
can't go out there and walk. So just sometimes just being able to move your arms, your legs, get your body moving, just, you can get it moving, whether if you're cleaning, just doing something, you got to move, you got to get moving. you know.
Would you, now I love that. Actually, I was reading an article where they recommended that seniors now, interestingly enough, guess what? I'm a senior.
I'm
I'm a
almost
senior.
there.
But there's an article that was I was reading. I forget the place in which the article is. I should have brought it up. But there's an article about the fact that seniors should wear those little watches that kind of track their exercise level when they need to get up, because these watches
Yes.
give you a warning.
Yep.
They give you a warning. I know my I don't have it on right now, but my watch, my Samsung watch, gives me a warning and says get up and exercise.
Stand. Mine say stand. My Apple say
Right.
it's time to stand.
Time to stand. And don't
Exactly.
ignore that message.
Yep.
If you listen, if technology is aiding you in essentially changing your habit, use that
Absolutely.
technology to change your habit. So guess
Absolutely.
what? When it says get up, even if
Get it.
you're at the computer working, get up. Just get up for a
Yes.
couple of minutes, because guess what? A lot of folks still working from home, and if you're working from home, you've created what do you call it? A sedentary? I forget the
Yeah.
terminology. I'm bad at that stuff.
You
But
and me both.
yeah, but you have a lifestyle of just kind of sort of sitting down.
Yes.
Don't do
Yep.
that to yourself. Get up, walk,
Yep.
join a gym. If you walk in the street, be careful
Exactly.
walking in the street, but walk on the sidewalk.
Yes.
But walk,
Yes.
get exercise, go swimming. Yeah,
Yes.
swimming is good. Get some exercise and
Yes.
join the challenge that we're going to have in some, we'll announce it, but join the challenge. Get ready, be
Yes.
prepared to join the challenge. How are we doing with time? We got about 15 more
You.
minutes left
Yes.
in this broadcast.
And Rock, one thing I just want to clear up is because I don't like to leave with people having questions. So I
Mhm,
know you asked about the nasidius blastosis, and I feel like
mhm.
I didn't give a good explanation. So I was just pulling it up, and it just says nasidius blastosis is a controversial medical term for hyperinsulinic hypoglycemia attributed to excessive insulin production by pancreatic beta cells.
Wow.
Okay. So I just wanted to clear it because I don't want anyone leaving with confusion.
Yeah, well, I don't think after that anybody's going to be confused, other than the words. They're pretty
Yeah.
heavy. I'll tell you, this is you've been living with this for such a long time. Are there a
Yeah.
lot of people that don't have working pancreases?
Well, now they've been doing the surgery more.
Hmm.
As I've been researching it, it looks like, they've been doing it more. But every time when I do research to try to ask, to try to speak with the community that don't have one, it's always someone that just has a piece of their pancreas taken out.
Oh,
So
okay.
I can't find anyone really that don't have the complete pancreas. And, I even go to the doctors and they're like, are you okay? You can't live without a pancreas. I'm like, okay, it's a new day and age now.
It's a new
So
day and age
it's a
now.
new day and age now. Yeah.
So not having a pancreas, having high and lows of sugar levels, all that can take a toll on any person.
And high blood pressure.
Then high blood pressure and other challenges
Yes.
related to diabetes
Diabetes.
to boot. How you deal with stress, and how do you suggest, or what do you suggest for people in dealing with stress and diabetes?
The way I deal with stress is I walk. I tell Rock, you know, I had tore my, whatever it's called, in my knee. And so I couldn't walk. Every time I walk, it hurted me. But I tell you, within that short amount of time, until I got that stirrer shot, I literally felt depressed. I felt like because my sugars were just going crazy, I just felt like I needed to get out there and walk. Walking for me, I tell you, it will do wonders. It really would. I would like to go to the gym, but unfortunately, I'm not that great at it yet. So, and you know, the funny thing is I got a gym right now. I'm not, I don't know, I'm not, I guess I love the gym, but I'm just not there yet. But walking, I'm gonna walk, and I will walk over, you know, I would do over 5 or 6 miles in a day.
Wow,
You
that's
know,
good.
I do 5 to 6 miles a day, sometimes 7 if I can. But when I don't walk, I get depressed.
Right.
And
right.
so, and I know it because my sugars are all over the place. And when that happens, the best thing to do is to go out there and walk. When you walk, you will start seeing your sugar go down some.
Right. Right.
For me, I know when I walk, I see my sugar going down. And so it does, it moves your body along and moving the cells along in your body. So, you know, we got to do this. We got to get healthier. You know,
Yes.
Rock, I have to be honest, I never liked it vegetables. You give me a piece of broccoli, I'd be like, oh, no way. I just could not eat vegetables. And so, and maybe because I wasn't really, the only vegetable I would eat was collard greens and stuff my mother cooked. That was close as I got to vegetables. But now I love broccoli. I will grill me some broccoli in a minute with some onions and some peppers and
come on, you're making me hungry right now.
Yeah, put some seasoning on it. I tell you, we can find ways to eat healthy.
That's
and
right.
You can find ways to make it taste good. Leave that salt alone. It's going to kill you.
That's right.
The salt is going to kill you. You know, because if you got diabetes and you're Black and you're African American, I'm sure you got high blood pressure.
That's right. They two come together.
They come together. So, you know, when you're going in there, if you got high blood pressure, tell your doctors to check you for diabetes also.
Right.
You know, and that's another challenge I think we need to do is challenge people to go to the doctors and get their hemoglobin A1C. You need to know what that is. So when you do start eating right and everything, you'll say, I'm eating right because I need to get my hemoglobin down.
Right.
You know, so I'm going to eat right.
Now explain for the folks that are listening in, what is hemoglobin? What is hemoglobin?
The hemoglobin A1C is where they detect the levels of your blood sugar for 3 months. And so for 3 months, it's like they're monitoring your blood sugars, and then they put it all to the results all together, and that's what it comes up to, whatever like mine was 12.9. And so they waited 3 months before they did the next one. And so in 3 months from that 12.9, and within the 3 months, now I'm 8.1.
Wow.
And so that's that's because,
a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I left those gummy worms alone. But, you know, and I started eating healthy. So now I'm excited, and I want to see what my hemoglobin A1C is, because it's going to monitor it now from that 8.1 to the next 3 months. And so it's important for people to know what their hemoglobin A1C is. You could go into the doctor with a glucose, and your glucose could be fine at that moment. But you don't know if you're a diabetic.
Right.
So you say to them that you want them to do a hemoglobin A1C, because that will monitor your blood sugars for the last 3 months. And so it's important that you know that you're entitled to it. Massachusetts have free health care, supposedly. So there's no excuse for none of us to be not having our hemoglobin A1C read.
So if you was going to say a big habit that we need to change, and it sounds like you already said it already, is see your physician,
Yeah,
see your
absolutely.
doctor.
Absolutely. You need to be going to the doctor. Everyone should be having a physical once a year. You should have a physical. And if you're not feeling well, you feel like you're urinating too much, your body just don't feel right, you're feeling lightheaded, all these symptoms, go to the doctor. Go to the doctor. Don't sit back and just wait for somebody to tell you. We gotta take care of our own health,
That's right.
and please, 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 let's not forget about the elderly that are in your building, that are around you, your grandparents, your parents. Some of them can't monitor their sugars. So please monitor. And that's why a lot of elderly lose their limbs,
That's
because
right.
their blood sugars are not monitored correctly. And then what happens, by the time they figure it out, it's too
Mhm.
late.
That's
But
right.
if somebody would have just monitored their sugars, they would have never lost their limbs. It's unacceptable. Another thing we can't forget, no one should be sticking their fingers at all during this in 2023. You should not be sticking your fingers. You should be
Why?
having a CG, because your fingers, just think. My fingers was it was so painful.
Hmm.
The rough skin, it's horrible. Your fingers look like a junkie almost. Your fingers just causes issues. So, we have to, there's CGM monitors that you can wear. I have one on right now. You can wear those. So it's important that you ask your doctor for something to monitor your sugar. And it's not hard. And we're going to be doing, please check us out online, because we will be doing information sessions on the CGM monitor and technology and the importance of it.
Very good. Excellent. The CGM monitor.
Continuous
Essentially, it's a
glucose.
monitor to be able to look at your sugar levels. It's a continuous monitor, a
Yes.
continuous glucose monitor. And that's important. And I'm glad that you mentioned it. One other item that I wanted to cover today, and you talked about seniors, and let's not forget them. There
Yes.
is an important population that needs to some assistance too, and that is a population that we tend to forget
Yes.
because they're away, and that is our incarcerated brothers and
Yes.
sisters
Mm,
that are impacted by diabetes and not receiving the level of services that they deserve. If the average person outside of incarceration is not getting services, what do you think is happening on the inside?
absolutely. Absolutely. People are passing out. People are not being treated correctly. So please, like Rock said, don't forget about those brothers and sisters that are on the inside suffering from diabetes. And so that's what we're here about, to speak for and help those brothers and sisters that are in there suffering with no help. And we're here for them.
Yes,
And we
we
ask
are.
that
And
you try to
actually,
be there too.
yes, and Pastor Hobbs and Eric, and obviously Pastor Bruce Wall too, is actually committed in so many ways to addressing the issue of diabetes in the incarcerated communities that are impacted by diabetes. And I'll tell you, I'm so proud of what Pastor Wall and Pastor Hobbs and Eric and
Eric,
the other folks that are addressing diabetes in the prison system. We thank you, and we
yeah,
salute you
absolutely.
for your engagement. Well,
Yes.
we're kind of 2 minutes out. You have some closing remarks, Barbara?
No, all I want to say is thank you. Thank you for listening. Check us out online. We do have some sessions that's going to be online on Facebook. You can go under and find us under the African American Diabetes. And we're excited about this. We're here to help. We're here to ring the alarm, and that's what we're going to do. So join us.
You said it, ringing the alarm on diabetes in the African American community. It is an epidemic that needs to be addressed. Thank you, Barbara. And thank
my
you,
rock.
Pastor Bruce Wall, and yes, our friends at Boston Black News and Boston Praise Radio and TV for allowing us to do another broadcast on diabetes in the African American community of Boston. See you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, my rock.
All right. Have a good day. Bye now.